Joining us for the artist panel at the I Am exhibition in St. Martin's Crypt. My name is Melinda Halassa, and I'm an editor and writer in London. And I want to preface our discussion today with my own assessment of the wonderful I Am exhibition. There are remarkable artworks on display, but it would be remiss of me to see this group show of 31 women artists only in terms of peace building, or that it is an exhibition that only celebrates diversity in the Middle East or the role of women. A wide range of artistic practice has been included in the exhibition, from painting to installation, photography, and also painting with mixed media. However, it is the wit, the aesthetics, and the articulation and conceptual underpinning of much of the artwork that makes it a very special exhibition. This evening, I'm hoping our discussion with the four artists will be here, and we have some artists in the audience, will be wide-ranging, not only exploring the lives of artists and women in the region, but also looking at hard topics of censorship in the arts, official culture versus unofficial culture, the importance of patronage, art as resistance, and art as political messaging. Before we start, I would like to introduce the artist and the curator with me today. Ahad Alamoudi from Saudi Arabia is perhaps the youngest artist joining us. She was born in Jeddah, a city I know from the British Museum that has a lively art scene, and I hope that she'll be talking to us about that later today. Her photograph of the installation Land of Dreams in I Am addressed the internet, celebrity culture, and images of womanhood, with, at least for me, a surprising and compelling pop sensibility. Zaina Assi from Lebanon lives between Beirut and London. However, Beirut, its cityscape and its culture seem at the heart of her work, which ranges from painting on canvas and mixed media. For her painting, the main image used for the I Am exhibition, the forces in the hands of the women, to animation, sculpture, even puppetry. From Bahrain, Marwa Al Khalifa's contribution to I Am, an installation of fiberglass and steel for Jawan, provokes questions about metaphor and making and how tradition informs the present, which I'm hoping that she will also discuss the importance of that in her work. And finally, but not least, the highly conceptual, startling, and unusual work by the British-Iranian artist Sohila Sokanvari. Her 4 self-portraits for the Song of Myself, made from human hair and calf vellum, throws up all sorts of issues about absence, monotheism, and the contentious nature of hair in the Middle East. We're also joined by the curator of the I Am exhibition, Janet Radi. And Janet, you've been working, I just asked you this now, you've been working for a decade in curating and promoting Middle Eastern arts in London and in the wider world. And as we were walking down, I said, oh, you're no longer a newcomer, you're very established. And I guess like one of the first questions I want to ask, like to frame the artist and the discussion we'll have with the artist, is that I feel that Arab art and culture, there's a real hunger to know now in a way that wasn't here 10 years ago. And can you talk about that, or am I mistaken?
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. Thank you. When I first started out, I mean, yes, there were 1 or 2 galleries that were showing Arab and Middle Eastern art, but you really had to search out to find them. Whereas now, I have a newsletter, so I'm researching all the time exhibitions that are taking place, not just in London, but throughout the world for Middle Eastern artists. And I'm surprised at how many, it may not be necessarily a solely Middle Eastern art focused exhibition, but there will be so many exhibitions now that you can find that will have Arab, Iranian, Turkish, North African artists in London.
But why is there hunger now, do you think?
I mean, one has to obviously look at the political situation. 10 years ago, I would suggest that probably 80–90% of the population in London had not even heard of Dubai or Qatar. They certainly couldn't place it on a map. Now, every single day, we're looking at our Facebook, Instagram, social media, the news. Every day, we're being told stories about the Middle East, about what's happening in Syria, so it's become much more of our consciousness. Now, obviously, that's perhaps a sad reality, but from the artistic point of view, one has to say that now there is a hunger for art from that region. People want to find out more about it. People want to, they can't go to the region necessarily, but we have the opportunity to show that the general public hear art from the region, and I think that's very, very important.
So this is the climate that we're in now. But before we go on, I'd like to introduce the artist. Ahmed Alamoudi from Saudi Arabia. I asked the artists before is that I wanted to, for each of them to talk about the relative art, the scene that they have come from their relative cities, and also the great influences in their work. So we'll start with you.
Well, the art scene in Saudi Arabia right now is it's rising due to politics that's happening, but also the community and society have been kind of really encouraged to kind of produce art, but also are very supportive of what's happening within the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And it's a very exciting time to be there now and to be producing art now, and especially as a woman having a voice in regards to my country, my society, and things that are happening around the region that have been affecting me and influencing me, and allowing me to kind of produce and propel my work further. It's a very exciting, and hopefully the future there'll be more attention, and there is a global international relationship happening right now between Saudi Arabia and the world, and there are a lot of eyes on us. But I think it's time now for us to kind of use that power as artists to kind of change, perspectives or stereotypes, and work around that, what we're given anyway.
Zaina, can you talk about Beirut? I mean, I can remember when I went to Beirut after the Civil War had ended, and in the late 1990s, 2000, it was still an art scene that was underdeveloped. And then Christine Tomei came around, and suddenly there was an international focus on Beirut. Can you talk about that in your city?
Yeah. Well, in Beirut, in fact, there's a lot of different artists working, and you don't feel that there is one mainstream. You couldn't find one artistic movement or one school of thought, which is very interesting and fun. So you have loads of artists working in different fields. You've got the new generation working with video arts, with interactive art, and you've got the older generation like Akram Zatari, Walid Raed, Walid Sadiq, Ziad Antar, Lamia Jreish, who tried to talk about the war when it was happening, but there was no platform to receive them. So they had to wait like a decade and then come back to it. And they've been doing wonderful work. The thing is about the Lebanese art scene that it is a challenge to keep it thriving. And it is a challenge to keep it active because the situation in Lebanon is there's so much unrest and instability. But there are so many good art out there, and you have these two schools, if you want, one who wants to talk, who wants to play the witness about what happened during these years of war, and ones who don't want to have anything to do with it. But I mean, it's always interesting to see different people expressing themselves in different ways. The sad thing is that the government is almost non-existent when it comes to sponsoring. So it's always, you've got like non-profit and personal effort organizations that are taking place. You've got Ashkal Alwan, you've got Beirut Art Center. So there is a lot of things happening, but you have to look for them. And I think it could have happened much more, but the situation isn't helping. So we'll see in the future.
I want to talk about that whether at this time, because the region is in conflict or war, if that's really all artists, the pressure that's put on artists, like is that all they have to talk about? But we'll get to that. I'd like to know about the art scene that you come from in Bahrain, because that's an art scene that's relatively new, even though you said that 4 years ago shows, exhibitions started.
Actually, it's not fairly new. Even though Bahrain is tiny, been going on for a while. Our annual art show has been going on for over 40 years.
Oh, 40 years, excuse me.
Yeah. So it's exciting that there's this platform for artists to take part of, and it's been going on, as I said, since the 70s. And there's a prize which encourages artists to participate. Currently, there's a lot of new initiatives that are going on, which is exciting, especially for the new artists. Having a platform. The gallery started out in the 90s. I would say when I came back from university, that was the time where a lot of galleries, and there are the two main galleries right now in Bahrain, and still bringing artists from abroad. But for opportunities for locals, I would say there are, non-profit and private sector initiatives that are going on. So that's primarily it in a nutshell. But as an artist, it's of course each one faces challenges. I would say for the Bahraini artist, it's selling their art is always a challenge because there aren't. The galleries are primarily catering to artists from abroad. They have opportunities for local artists, but I wish there was more. And I feel that's the direction we're heading into with the new initiatives that are happening right now.
Because I think when we think about the Gulf, we think that the art of the Gulf is in Sharjah, Dubai. I rarely hear about Bahrain. So that it has this long-standing art scene. And is there a division between the older artists and the younger ones, or everyone's kind of working together?
The art scene in Dubai, it's nice that Art Dubai has now been 10 years, and it's nice to go and visit, and I haven't yet been to Sharjah, the Biennale, but it's nice to go and see what they've done. I went there a few months ago, and I was blown away at the level, and also having artists from abroad visit. My concern now is how having the voice of the local artist. Sorry, you asked a question about the local artists.
Like how the younger ones and the older ones, the relationship that they have.
Now we're going into our fourth generation. We've interacted very well in terms of older generation and younger, because we have the Art Society, which started in 1982, and there are events where we collaborate as artists, and it's nice for me to see that, because when I came back from university, I was resistant. I wasn't sure if I should show my work and collaborate, because I thought they were all established, and it was, somehow you feel intimidated. But it's exciting, especially in the annual exhibit, where all the generations. So there's no such thing as, of course, we have the founders, and they're not part of the judging process. But it's nice to have that interaction with them. There's no such thing as, oh, you're the younger generation. I've been part of a few exhibits where it's been all the generations, which is nice.
That's very exciting. It sounds very inclusive.
Yeah.
So Hela, you are a British